Hello everybody, this is Carmichael the Cat, and welcome to your 23rd C++ tutorial. In this video, we're going to be going over the next class in the STL library, the stack. You can see we've already included the file. It's just called stack. So before we start writing code, I'm going to explain what the stack is and how it differs from a vector. So the stack is just like a vector. It's another container class, and you can specify the type of it. But the difference is that you're only allowed to modify the top element of the stack, so the newest one that was added. And you can think of this like a stack of objects. If you have a stack of some objects, you can really only touch the one on top, otherwise the rest of the stack is just going to come falling down. So like if you had a stack of books, if you tried to pull one in the middle out, all of the ones on top of it would fall down. So you're only allowed to modify or even view the top element of the stack. So let's write some code to make this more clear. So we'll say standard stack. It's just like declaring a vector. And we give it the type int. We'll just call it stack. And now to add elements to the stack, it's very similar to a vector. So int I equals 0, I is less than 10, and I plus plus. And we say stack dot push, not push back, just push, and then you give it the value that you want to have pushed into the stack. So we'll give it I. So now our stack has 10 elements, and it's all the numbers 0 through 9. So we're only allowed to modify right now the newest element that was added to the stack, which is in this case 9, because that's the last element that was hit in the for loop. So that's the last element that was pushed onto the stack, and it's the only one we can view and modify. And to do this, or to modify or view the top element of the stack, we just say standard count, and we can say stack dot top and standard endline. And if we run this, oh, it's just going to close. I'm using the Visual Studio 2015 preview. It's slightly different. We now have to put system pause at the end of the program. And I'll go over what the system command does in a later video, but just system with the parameter pause as a string will pause the program and give you the press any key to continue thing, just like Visual Studio did automatically before. So we get 9 and press any key to continue, and that's the newest element that was added to the stack, and it was printed out. So just to prove that we can't access any of the other elements of the stack, if we tried to say stack at 0, then standard endline, we get an error. If we try to run this, there were build errors, so errorless, binaries, doesn't matter what that says. What it's basically saying is there's no subscript for the stack class. There's no overload for these operators. So you're not allowed to use it at all. You just have to say stack.top. So the stack has a lot less functions than the vector, and we can actually go over all of them in one while loop. And this will also show you how to access the other elements within a stack. So we're going to say while not stack.empty. And the empty function just checks whether or not the stack is empty. It returns true if the stack's empty, and it returns false if the stack's not empty. So what we're saying here is while the stack isn't empty, we're going to print out standard count, and then we'll say stack dot top. So we're going to print out the top element in the stack, and then we're going to print out a tab, which is \t, and then we're going to print out, or not that, we'll say stack dot size, and this works just like vector dot size. It prints out the size of the stack, the number of elements it has, and we'll say endline. And then, so say we wanted to access an element in the middle of the stack, what we have to do is we actually have to pop or get rid of all of the elements on top of that. So if we want to print out all the elements in the stack, we have to get rid of all the elements on top of the bottom element, and then we'll print them out as we go. So we'll say stack, and the function is pop, just like vector.popback that we went over in the last video, that pops the last element in the vector out. So we say stack.pop, doesn't take any arguments, and this gets rid of the top element. So now that we've gotten rid of the top element, we can access the element that was under it that is now the top element in the next run of the while loop. So if we run this, we get 9 and 10, 8 and 9, 7 and 8, 6 and 7, 5 and 6, and so on. So in the beginning, the top element is 9, and the stack has a size of 10, it has 10 elements in it. And then once we pop 9 off, the top element is 8, and has 9 elements in it. Once we pop 8 off, top value is 7, has 8 elements in it, and so on, until we get to the top value being 0, and it only having 1 element in it. Then, after that's popped off, the stack is empty, so the while loop will end. So that's actually all of the functions that the stack class has. There's really nothing else to go over. The concept is really the most important thing to remember. So instead of thinking of this just like an array that you can change the size of, you have to think of it as a stack of objects, and you can only do anything to the top element of the stack, and to get to any of the other elements, you have to get rid of all the elements on top of the one you want to access. So it's kind of fundamentally different than a vector, but functionally it works almost the same way. So that's actually all for this video. It's a very short video. In the next video, we're going to go over queues, which are pretty much the exact opposite. So I'll see you then.